Hi guys, that's Black here. Do you know about horror games? I bet you do. But do you know about Mascot horror? Well, yeah, I'm sure you do. You might not know the name of the genre itself, but you probably know what I'll talk about today. Mascot horror games are everywhere nowadays, starting from Five Nights at Freddy's, ending with Poppy Playtime and Garden of Banban. All of these are getting more and more popular, but are they really that scary? Do they deserve even the popularity they got? In my opinion, well, not really. So today I'm going to talk about the issues of mascot horror and its scare factor in general. I'm going to discuss only games I played or know about. Also, this video is fully my opinion, so you have the right to argue with me in the comments. Now relax, grab some snacks, and we're going to go deep into the rabbit hole called mascot horror. We are starting off with some of the most popular games. Five Nights at Freddy's. Playing Five Nights at Freddy's is literally playing a non-scare game with the creepiest backstory there is in mascot horror history. Experiments on people, many dead or transformed employees which are now lurking in the shadows ready to strike. Oh no. There are kids involved here. And you know what? I'll say this is a really awesome story. Creating such a scary story that sends chills down your spine is hard, but FNAF managed to do just that. But that doesn't mean that the game is scary itself. You see, the whole game plays on the surprise factor. What do I mean by that? Oh well, it's when a jump scare suddenly appears on your screen shouting in your ears, deafening you. It's not scary because the only scare a person would have is just a natural body reaction on a sudden loud noise. Some might jump, some will flinch just a bit, and some might even scream, but it's just a natural protection reaction that will last for a couple of seconds. That's not scary, my dudes. That's just a cheap way to make you feel like you're scared. Some might say that this mechanic might work on some people, and yes, you're right, but it's not scary for me, okay? This is my opinion, I said it in the beginning of the video. What are you asking? FNAF 1 and 2 have the same logic with slightly different mechanics, but they are practically the same thing in terms of scare factor. I like the second part better though. There are many more animatronics, so there's actually more tension. But the third part of the series, oh the third part. I'm sorry, but I really want to call this just a lazy attempt to make something slightly more interesting and different. But this is really set up apart. Yeah, phantoms might be a bit scary. Oh, the puppet though. I just don't like her. She's just really creepy. But other phantoms, well, you can just skip their jump scares, so why bother? Springtrap himself is again a great idea of a character, and this time a scary one. It's actually really scary to understand how he died and the whole story behind his back. It's a really interesting story nonetheless. And now a bit about FNAF 4 because it deserves to be here. I wish I could just delete my memories and play this game again. It's scary, it's interesting, it has a cool mechanic, it tells a great scary story, and it also tries to keep you in suspense. And it does work. The difference in FNAF 4 is that the whole game is based around the listening mechanic. So you need to listen very closely to breaths, footsteps, etc. And it works. Most of the time in the game your volume will be really high, which means that if you'll make just one small mistake, the screaming from a jump scare will be much louder. And you don't want that, right? Yeah, it works, I love it. Other than that, I need to say that I don't really like the designs of the animatronics here, though they're fitting the atmosphere. Oh, and also, there's no fungi now. At first, you might not know what to do and how to deal with the animatronics, which makes the game even scarier. This is also the first game where Carl has a jump scare. How can you just not love that? Talking about slightly better games in FNAF history, I really enjoyed the last FNAF, the Security Breach one. Although it's a really broken mess and it has a ton of different glitches and bugs, and I mean, if you don't know how broken it is, just go and watch Astral Spiff or something. It's just a decent horror game experience. It plays on a stealth game mechanics and allows you to move quite freely. It's great, but it doesn't work every time. You see, Pizzaplex is quite bright and most of the time you are able to see all the animatronics around. So most of the time you will not be really scared from the jump scares. But the game has its own vibe, so you can just do not do anything with that. Also, I think the sequence with Moon is just outright pure horror. I know that you can glitch the guy, but we're talking about the non-glitched experience. So, I was really freaking scared when I was playing through that sequence. At one point, Moon will be also able to climb into this playground, so it makes it even more scarier. I love this sequence of the game more than any other sequence in the whole entire game. In general, I really like FNAF. It's a decent horror experience, though I didn't talk about all of the games because I'm not really sure what to say about most of them. Some are better, some are worse, but the whole series gets a pass anyway. By the way, if you really want to know basic story of FNAF better, I'd recommend you to check out VHS series on YouTube and or play FNAF fan games like The Return to Bloody Night. Bendy and the Ink Machine has a very shady story. The game tries to be scary horror with cool atmosphere but ends up being just long and boring. The whole story is hidden in the tapes, and although they're everywhere and some of them are required to proceed, they can still mostly be missed. Most of the time there is no danger and no one can harm you except for the ink monsters, who can be killed very easily. The puddles on the floor will actually inform you of the spawn point of these guys. The only scary chapter in the game once was chapter 3. I really enjoyed it in early game days. Trust me, it was so cool to play something finally spooky. The Ink Demon appeared every... oh well, you couldn't guess when the Ink Demon will appear because it was always random! Yes, you could only see the ink splatters on the wall, ceiling and floor. Yeah, he wasn't running after you just right away because he had to finish the spawn animation, but it was still scary, okay? It was really interesting. I really loved it because everything was in random places and you just had to walk around the whole floor. Also, there were floors on which it was hard to get in the hiding spot fast enough, so it was always adding to the scare factor. Yes, sometimes the Ink Demon was giving you time to run away, but most of the time you felt trapped and felt the tension growing, because you never knew when the demon was going to spawn and when you were going to need to hide fast. There was also the part of the game with Projectionist, which is still quite scary actually. The place itself was small and there were many projectors which distracted you. It was nice to hear the chase music and run to the closest hiding station. The problem was always that you can't run fast because you're in the ink and the ink is, well, viscous. It was an amazing experience and it made me feel scared for the whole chapter, but then everything changed. Okay, no, not everything at this point, I'm just being dramatic. You see, Meadly decided that the game should fit for speedrunners, and that's why in the third chapter Ink Demon spawns every 2 or so minutes, and all of the things you need to find are always on the same spots. I don't know what really happened that led to this, but this is actually what I heard. Now the game feels scripted and outright boring. The third chapter is the only one I really liked. Other chapters are mostly filled with puzzles and sometimes the Badger Gang and ink monsters. You can always see them and guess when they appear, so it's not actually scary. I guess the game just tried to be creepy in the atmosphere and storyline, and I guess it works a bit. The end is slightly scary actually. The way you get to know that the whole game is a complete never-ending loop is just... It's really cool and it sends chills down my spine for the first time, but then you just forget about it, so I'm not really sure that I can count this for a scare factor counter. By the way, I should also mention the boss fight in the end. I like it. It's a great idea, but still not really scared. I mean, yeah, maybe some will be scared by the appearance of the Ink Demon, but well, I never was, so I'm not sure if anyone was either. Anyways, Bendy is not scary, but it really tries to be. It's an interesting experience, and I guess I would recommend this to people who like puzzle things and hidden stories, for which you need to play the game at least twice. Also, I guess it's a good time to say that I haven't watched or played Bendy and the Duck Revival, so I cannot say anything about this game of the series. Just think that it might be creepier than Bendy and the Ink Machine. Other than that, this game is pretty cool and I liked it myself, so I might give it a pass, but only if we're talking about the old version of the game. Anyways, moving on to the next game. Tattletale was made 28th of December 2016 and soon forgotten, what is actually really bad. I played the game and I also watched a lot of videos. Long ago, I also had a recording and a stream of my playthrough, but now you'll not be able to find any of those. I would say that Tattletale deserves to come back. I really think so. I think people who've seen this game even once feel a lot of nostalgia right now. And I do too, actually. This game is about Christmas and toys, and look at they look like Furbies, and they look better than Furbies. And look at this cute guy, just look at him. He's so adorable, oh my god! Ah! Oh, sorry, I got a little too excited. The game has a very interesting mechanic. You carry a flashlight that makes a noise, and a toy that also makes sound when it wants something. There is also possessed Mama Tattletale that will haunt you and move towards you. When she hears the sound, she will rush closer to the sound. That's why you should be quiet around her. Your flashlight will die every couple tens of seconds, and you have to refresh it by shaking loudly. And the toy? Well, this guy just loves to talk. He always wants something from you. He wants love. He wants to play. He needs to be groomed. And he will also say how he needs to eat right now in the middle of the night when Mama is just right around the corner. This sounds like a funny thing until you start to actually get to the hard levels. I mean, hard parts of the game. The game turns out to be harder than you think, and it hides a creepy story behind it. I don't really remember all of the parts of the story, but I still remember the demonic circle and this tattletale children around it. I guess the story here is something that doesn't really matter at this point, because the game is scary anyways. It builds tension around you, and every time you play it, you always feel Mama watching you. It's great to have this kind of games in this video, because it proves that not every Mascot horror game is lame and boring piece of horror. I can't tell you a lot of things about this game, except that this game has just one little problem. At one point it gets a bit too hard for players to get it. Yes, I understand that every night should get harder and harder, but at one point it's just really hard to look after everything. At the end of the game, you will have a pretty interesting sequence, but for this one, I'll not spoil anything for you. Just play the game by yourself, trust me, you'll like it. This one gets an easy pass from me. I also would like to do a full video review on this game, but only if you would like me to. Hello neighbor. Oh, hello neighbor. Well, hello neighbor is just trash. I don't know if I should tell you about how bad it is at this point. Many people have already made a video about it, and since I'm not in the fandom, I suppose I can't say a lot about it. My experience was bad. I mean, yeah, I know I'm kinda stupid, but all of the puzzles were just a bit of bane of my existence. They were really hard for me, and I couldn't figure them out even with guides. I played one of the alphas, or betas. I don't really remember, but the playthrough will be on the screen so the fans could understand what I'm talking about. But we're mostly talking about the scare factor here, so it's not scary, like, at all. I have really nothing to say here at this point. I mean, most of the time you just try to figure out what to do while the neighbor is somewhere on the first floor. Most of the time you don't even see the enemy. The rare times he tries to catch you, it's easy to outrun him, so neighbor is not a problem. The puzzles, however, are, well, I would say that I might be stupid and don't understand something, but the puzzles are not straightforward at all. You might have already noticed that every game that has puzzles in it and that I have covered so far is not that great of a game because of the puzzles that take too much time of the gameplay. Most of the times you don't see the monster or the enemy itself, so mostly you are working on the current puzzle. There is nothing wrong with it, but it also makes the game less scary and ruins the tension. Also, there's stupid sun that ruins it even more. When you see everything, you can control everything what's going around you, so that's why it feels less scary. Also, the neighbor design is not scary or sinister at all, and the story is questionable at best. I would not talk about all of this anymore because I feel really lost talking about this game. If you want to get deeper into the story of the game itself, I might leave a link to a video I watched and really liked in the description. In any case, Hello Neighbor gets a huge no-no from me. Sorry for the fans, but this game is not the game I would recommend for the first Mascot horror experience. Just no. Oh, Baldi's Basics. It's such a cute one. It's not scary at all, but what would you expect from a game which was made within a week? It's a really fun and challenging experience for you to try out. It's clear that the game wasn't expected to get much attention from people, so I can't be really mad at it. It was made for the competition, what do you want from it? By the way, according to the wiki, the game got the 2nd place in the Game Jam that day. Great job, Baldi! The game is mostly not scary, just hard with a simple mechanic. You're learning math. God, no. My truly favorite subject. It's a lie. The need to answer some questions. Well, you have to solve math problems to be exact. Mr. Baltimore, it's full Baldi's name, helps you out by reading the problems out loud and after the first note, gives you a quarter. The game gets you on the 2nd notebook where will be a problem that you cannot solve no matter how hard you try. And that's when the game begins. The thing is that our math teacher Baldi is so angry that you can't answer the question correctly, so he's going to follow you until, well, killing or whatever he does when he catches the player? In any case, you're going to have a lot of characters trying to stop you from getting all the notebooks, so the game is harder than you really think. Anyways, no matter how I like and adore Baldi's Basics, it's not scary just one bit. It's challenging, but it doesn't have a creepy story, it hasn't got any creepy jump scare, or anything that can scare you at all. That's why Baldi's Basics will get a no-no in this video. It's so hard to say so, because this game brings back to me so good memories. But I have to be fair, it's not scary. Only the surprise factor if you really want to count that, but nothing more than that. Rainbow Friends got here because I seen people calling it a Mascot horror. Besides, I would really like to talk about this one. Rainbow Friends is a Roblox horror game that is, it's pretty cool actually. This game can be called slightly scary and I think I like it no matter what. The main idea of the game is that we always have a hiding spot with us, so we can hide at any time. There are actually many different, mascots? Puppets? I don't know how they can be called, but they will stalk you and try to prevent you from completing your goal. And it's interesting, because there are many different puppets who have different mechanics to deal with. Blue, for example, just walks in the hallways and can notice you sometimes and run after you. Purple is in the vents and might come out sometimes. Well, only in case if you will step too close. Orange has a specific path which he's going to follow, so stay out of it. It's a cool idea, really. The game doesn't have any interesting story, at least as far as I know, but I'm not really sure. Anyways, I would say that the game is a bit repetitive at times. Well, all of the times to be honest. Every round you have a new problem to deal with, and a task which is basically find 1000 of the object and bring it to the main room. And a joke about 1000 is not quite a joke at this point. There are too many of the things you should collect. You spend just a lot of time going back and forth, and at one point it gets too boring. Also, the game doesn't have the first person mode, if I'm not mistaken, so, well, it's not going to be that scary. The jump scares are lame, and there is only the surprise factor sometimes, which is a bit sad. In this sequence, I would really like to recommend remaking this game as an actual horror game, and not just a game in Roblox. It would be really interesting to look at the remastered version, because, you know, the game itself has a lot of potential. I know that nobody will do this, but anyways, I'll dream about it. It would be a perfect Mascot horror, with scares and tension, with tasks and maybe even a good story. Well, at this point, the game will get a maybe. It's good, but could be developed. Actually, an interesting experience, so I just recommend to try it out. No matter what people say, I really enjoy Puppy Playtime. This game is actually proves that Mascot horror can be still interesting and creepy in all of its ways. Although I would really enjoy to talk about it for a long time, I just can't because it's not a review. Puppy Playtime is amazing. This is the only Mascot horror that has normal puzzles. The first chapter is the introduction to understand the mechanics of the game and in the end run away from Huggy in the scary and tense chase sequence. The game shows you how the basic puzzles work and how to play with grab bag. Simple puzzles are so chill so you don't have to think about it most of the time. And hear me out, you could see Huggy Wuggy watching you. And it was not really building the tension because I guess they're just more funny and cute. Well, just look at him. He's adorable. Well, Huggy should look cute actually. Because he's a mascot of a company that produces toys. And I really enjoy this design. It looks like a fluffy, worm-handed guy with a huge smile. And also as a creepy character in the end, because of his teeth and all the scary things. The game plays well with teaching you the mechanics, telling you the story, and creeping you out sometimes. The chase sequence is scary and you might have to get through it even a couple of times. It's really tense because of the lack of space that you can move and because of the tricks Huggy plays on you during the whole section. He can pop out of nowhere and you'll have quickly to find a way to get out of him. The game also plays a classic trick, closing the door on you at one point to make you feel scared. And it's like nowhere to run, but the door opens just before Huggy catches you. The second chapter of the game is just fantastic. The game turns out to be a bunch of minigame puzzles which are watched by Mommy Longlegs. You have the hub area and it feels so good. Like there are so many things there to check. This actually looks like a place for kids. Also, the game adds the cutouts, so you can hear characters' voices. I really like Huggies and Kissies. And Bunzos, of course. The game balances between small puzzle sequences, which are still not that hard, and a bit of a scare factor, which is like really good here. Magnifique. I like them just a bit too much. Music Memory is a great creepy game that builds tension really fast. You have to do everything fast and better without mistakes. You can always hear Bunzo hitting the cymbals, so you can feel the time is ticking. But the game is still fun. Waka Huggy is darker than other games, so you have to look for sound cues. It was hard for me to get it for the first couple of times, but it tests your reaction. It also helps you to learn to stay calm in nerve-wracking situations. The last minigames is Statues, and it is really a good one, but it has a small secret. Pugapillar is a creepy guy and he can move always. You, however, cannot. When the light is out, you can move. When it shines, you have to stop. Pugapillar has adaptive speed, so if you move faster, it'll move faster too. It's a great idea. When the light shines, you can also turn your head and see the Pugapillar coming closer, and it's so scary. Also, you can always hear the guy behind you, and it makes the sequence even more tense. I love it. After all this comes Mommy Longlegs. Her chase sequence is pretty cool actually. The sequence balances between small puzzles and Mommy herself running after you. This can be really nerve-wracking at times. Most of the times. In general, I really hope that the developers will continue to do the thing they have done in the second chapter. At this point, we can just wait for chapter 3 and be happy by the game we got for now. This one gets a huge pass, really recommended. And the last horror game for today will be a huge disaster. I don't really want to talk about Garden of Banban for a long time. This is just a parody that I don't like or appreciate at all. I thought it was a parody actually, but in the end it turned out to be a separate, serious game. I'm not really sure if the developers will do better, but at this point the game is just not scary. It's outright dumb. Okay, to give the benefit of the doubt, there are some creepy models like Bambolino or Banban in the first chapter. Well, but in the end it turns out to be lame, boring, sad, and just God please no. Actually, the developers tried to do something new and interesting in the third chapter of the game. But it shows only that if they worked a bit more than 2 months to create a game, they might create something better than this. The third chapter is also made much longer than it should be, just because of many monologue sequences, which are not skippable. Oh, why? Just why? Garden of Banban actually deserves to have a separate video, but I would just recommend you to watch some of the videos from yeah, for example. There is going to be everything you need to know about the game and the developers. I just don't know what I can explain here. It's just too lame and boring. And it also copies the story of Poppy Playtime. Well, they just look similar, you know. The controls are wacky, the story is lazy put together. At one point the game is just so bad it's so funny. Just all that I can say. It's a huge no-no. I don't recommend it one bit. Sorry. So, I talked about many Mascot horror games today. Not all of them, actually. Not even close, but I covered most of the ones I know, played, and felt something through them. It's good that some games are still creepy and can be scary no matter if they are Mascot horror or not. Most of the games in this list were not great, but we found at least 2 Mascot horror games which are perfect to play and to be scared. I think although Mascot horror actually attracts kids, and maybe some games are using cheap mechanics and are not really that scary, they might be interesting to play and to try it out by yourself. I think Mascot horror has future, and I believe that these games are going to be better and better. But for now, this is all we have. Thank you so much for watching this video. Tell me what Mascot horrors you like yourself in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, press the like button if you liked the video. Till next time, guys!